In the beginning, the realm of heaven shone with the radiance of countless divine beings, angels, the messengers of the Almighty's will. Among them was one of the most glorious, a being of morning light and celestial beauty. He was called Lucifer, the light-bringer. But within his breast grew ambition. It is said he gazed upon the throne of heaven and whispered in his heart, "I will ascend above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." Thus began the first rebellion. In secret councils, Lucifer enticed other angels to his cause. An army of heavenly beings enthralled by his pride and charisma. War erupted in heaven's eternal halls. The archangel Michael, bearing the sword of divine justice, confronted the would-be usurper. Lightning split the sky as angelic hosts clashed, and the firmament shook with the fury of their battle. But Lucifer and his followers could not prevail. The brilliant angel of dawn was finally cast out of heaven, flung down like a bolt of lightning to the earth. With him fell all who had joined his revolt. A legion of once shining spirits now turned into exiles. The light-bringer's radiance was eclipsed by darkness. Henceforth he was called Satan, the adversary, fated to wander in the shadows far from the glory of God. That tale of a proud angel's fall is not unique. In ancient Persian lore, at the dawn of time, the wise lord Ahura Mazda was opposed by his twin offspring, a spirit of darkness named Ahriman. Filled with envy and spite, Ahriman rebelled against the light. He unleashed hordes of demons to assail creation, staining the world with suffering and falsehood. Thus, Zoroastrian myth cast the struggle between good and evil as a primordial act of defiance, a once radiant spirit's prideful revolt that unleashed an age-long war against truth itself, to last until the end of time. In Islamic tradition, another heavenly being dared to defy the divine command. When God fashioned the first man, Adam, from clay, he ordered all the angels to bow before this new creation, and all obeyed, except Iblis. Iblis was not an angel by nature, but a jinn made of smokeless fire, who had been allowed among the heavenly hosts. Out of arrogant pride, he refused to prostrate. "I am better than him," Iblis snarled. "You created me from fire and him from clay." In that moment, prideful disobedience entered the cosmos. God cursed Iblis and cast him out of his mercy. The once exalted one became Shaitan, the devil, condemned to fall from the heavens. Yet as he fell, Iblis vowed to tempt mankind and lead them astray in revenge. In the Quran, he is granted respite until the Day of Judgment, a twisted freedom to roam the earth and whisper in human hearts. His downfall, intertwined with our own trials, illustrates again the danger of pride, a servant of heaven who would not submit, and so was cast down to dwell apart from the divine light. Nor were such cosmic rebellions confined to monotheism. In Greek myth, the old order of gods itself was overturned in a heavenly war. The first gods, the Titans, ruled during a golden age until their arrogance sparked their downfall. Their leader Cronus had usurped power by overthrowing his own father. But Cronus grew paranoid of a prophecy that his children would one day overthrow him in turn. When his son Zeus reached maturity, he rose up and rallied his siblings against the tyrannical Titans. A cataclysmic conflict, the Titanomachy, ensued. The sky rumbled with divine thunderbolts, and the earth heaved as Olympian gods battled the colossal Titans. In the end, Zeus and his allies triumphed. The defeated Titans were hurled down into Tartarus, a mist-shrouded abyss deeper than any mortal hell, where they were chained in eternal night. From their ruin, Zeus established a new order on Mount Olympus. To the Greeks, the Titans' fall was a lesson that even primeval powers could be overthrown, that pride and tyranny would ultimately meet justice even among immortals. In the myths of ancient Egypt, one of the gods likewise succumbed to envy and plunged the world into chaos, only to be cast out in the end. Set, god of the desert and storm, grew jealous of his brother Osiris, who was revered as a wise and just king over Egypt and even as lord of the dead. In a violent coup, Set murdered Osiris and dismembered his body, seizing the throne for himself. This fratricide threw the divine order out of balance. The Nile's annual floods faltered, crops withered, and darkness swept over the land as if creation itself were in mourning. But Osiris's queen, the goddess Isis, managed to gather the pieces of her husband's body and, through magic, briefly resurrected him, long enough to conceive a son, Horus. When Horus came of age, he confronted his uncle to avenge his father and reclaim the throne. The struggle between Horus and Set shook the two lands of Egypt. Horus the falcon, embodiment of rightful kingship and order, against Set the Red Beast, embodiment of fury and disorder. At last Horus prevailed, and Set was defeated. As punishment, Set was banished to the barren deserts, far from the fertile Nile Valley. Order, what the Egyptians called Ma'at, was restored under Horus's reign. Through Set's ignominious fall, Egyptian law taught that even among the gods, betrayal and usurpation would not triumph. The proud villain was exiled, and the harmony of the cosmos was re-established by the rightful heir. Across these diverse traditions, Hebrew, Christian, Muslim, Persian, Greek, Egyptian, runs a common thread. There were once exalted beings blazing with heavenly splendor, who let pride or passion drive them to rebel against the divine order. Whether it was an archangel coveting God's throne, a fiery jinn refusing to honor a creature of dust, an elder god battling his children, or a jealous brother spilling kindred blood, the pattern holds: hubris begets a fall. These shining ones who defied heaven were cast down into darkness. They are remembered as the forsaken, the exiled, the fallen messengers of heaven. Their rebellion set the stage for dire consequences that would ripple through both the celestial and mortal realms. Far below the heavenly vault, in the realm of mortals, the consequences of these celestial revolts began to unfold. Ancient stories insist that when divine beings fell, the earth itself shuddered. In the era before the Great Flood, humanity lived in relative innocence, but not alone. The Book of Enoch says that 200 heavenly watchers, tasked to watch over mankind, gazed down upon the daughters of men and were bewitched by their beauty. Abandoning their posts, these angels descended to Mount Hermon under cover of twilight. There they bound themselves with an oath to take human wives, all agreeing to share the blame for this forbidden deed. Led by their chief Shemyaza and the ringleader Azazel, the watchers forsook the laws of heaven and made the earth their home. At first, to humankind, the coming of the watchers seemed a blessing. These radiant beings took mortal women as wives, and by them fathered children of astonishing size, the Nephilim, giants of legend. Towering over ordinary men, the Nephilim were hailed as demigods and heroes. Eager to empower their offspring, the watchers taught humans arts beyond their ken: how to forge weapons and armor from metal, how to brew potent potions and cast enchantments, how to read the secrets of heaven in the stars. Under their sudden tutelage, humankind leapt forward. They learned the smithing of iron and the craft of war, the lore of magic and the wisdom of the skies, knowledge once reserved for heaven now given to the earth. But these gifts bore a dark price. Armed with new weapons, kings and warriors waged bloody conflicts. Pride and cruelty multiplied among men. The half-angel giants, unrestrained by human limits, became tyrants and ravagers. They consumed everything in their path. When nothing was left, they even devoured human flesh in their madness. The earth groaned under the weight of violence and sin, and the anguished cries of the innocent ascended to heaven. On high, the heavenly king and his archangels beheld the corruption and decreed a reckoning. A great flood would cleanse the world of the Nephilim's evil. But first, the rebel watchers would face divine justice. He sent his angels to bind the rebels. Azazel was hurled into a desert abyss, and the others were chained beneath the earth until the day of judgment. Then came the flood. Waters swept away the wicked giants and all who had been corrupted. Only Noah's family, sheltered in the ark, survived to see a purified world. The Nephilim were gone. The fallen watchers remained trapped in their dark prisons, remembered only in legend as angels who traded heaven's glory for lust, and whose fall nearly drowned creation. Their tale became a dire warning. Even heaven's mighty messengers could fall, and when they did, the world itself trembled. In another tradition, a different kind of divine gift was snatched from mankind, and the thief paid an eternal price. The Greeks tell of the Titan Prometheus, who looked upon primitive mortals shivering in the cold and took pity. Zeus, king of the gods, had denied humanity the gift of fire, keeping them in darkness so they would remain feeble and dependent. But Prometheus' forethought, defying Zeus's will, stole a glowing ember of sacred fire from Olympus and brought it down to humankind. For the first time, mortals could ward off the darkness and cold, cook food, and forge tools. The spark of civilization had been lit. When Zeus peered down from Olympus and saw fires flickering across the earth, his rage was boundless. Mortals now possessed a divine power against his command. In vengeance, Zeus devised a cunning punishment for both man and benefactor. To plague humanity, he sent them a woman named Pandora with a sealed jar of evils. When her curiosity drove her to open it, countless sorrows flew out to afflict the world, and only a single blessing, hope, remained inside once she slammed the lid shut. Zeus's wrath toward Prometheus was even more severe. The defiant Titan was seized and chained to a desolate peak of the Caucasus Mountains. Each day, a giant eagle tore out Prometheus's liver, and each night it grew whole again, only to be devoured anew. The next day, an unending torment. Thus, the immortal friend of man endured ages of agony for his crime of compassion. Prometheus's tale, like that of the Watchers, stands as a solemn reminder to steal the fire of heaven or the secrets of the gods, even for the sake of love or enlightenment, is to invite woe. Both the giver and the receivers of such illicit gifts ultimately paid a heavy price in suffering. This refrain of forbidden knowledge and its cost echoes across cultures. In the Bible's first chapters, the drama of temptation in Eden carries the same theme. A cunning serpent, later seen as a guise of that fallen Lucifer, whispered to Eve that tasting the one forbidden fruit would make her and Adam like God, knowing good and evil. Unable to resist, Eve and then Adam ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge. In that moment, their innocence died. Their eyes opened not to glory, but to guilt. They realized their nakedness and cowered in shame. God's voice soon thundered through the garden, pronouncing judgment on the transgression. Adam and Eve were banished from Eden, exiled into a world of thorns and death. Eve was condemned to bring forth children in pain, and Adam to earn his bread by sweat from cursed ground until he returned to dust. The paradise they lost was sealed off from them, an angel with a flaming sword barring any return. The serpent's deceit had indeed granted knowledge, but at the cost of divine favor and peace. Like the saga of the Watchers or the folly of Prometheus, the Eden story shows the fateful cycle. A heavenly being's deception or a mortal's prideful grasp at forbidden wisdom brings about ruin and exile. Even the oldest Mesopotamian myths bear a similar warning. The Mesopotamians, too, told of a proud servant's downfall. Anzu, a lion-headed storm bird serving the god Enlil, once stole the sacred tablet of destiny, seeking to control the cosmos. In an instant, the sun dimmed and chaos loomed. The hero Ninurta pursued Anzu, battled him in the skies, and recaptured the tablet. Order was restored, and Anzu was left disgraced and destroyed. To those ancient people, the meaning was clear. No heavenly messenger could seize divine power without inviting utter ruin. Across all these accounts, biblical, apocryphal, mythological, a pattern shines through like a thread in a grand tapestry. Pride goads brilliant beings to rebel against divine law. Forbidden knowledge is offered or taken in defiance of heaven, and then comes the fall, a fall from grace, a fall from power, often a literal plunge from the sky. Catastrophe follows, whether in the form of a flood, a firestorm of woes, the expulsion from paradise, or the slaying of a monster. The identities of the rebels differ. Angel or jinn, titan or demon, dragon or trickster. But their stories all reflect one truth. The laws of the cosmos, set by the divine, cannot be upended without dire consequences. The fallen messengers of heaven, in all their guises, stand as eternal warnings of the perils of arrogance and disobedience. Yet after each upheaval, the balance of the cosmos was slowly restored, darkness dispelled by light, order reasserted over chaos. What then became of those fallen ones in the end? How does the story conclude for the proud spirits cast out of heaven? To these final reckonings, the tale now turns. Night does not last forever. Though the fallen ones wrought chaos and sorrow, the prophecies of many faiths foretell that justice will ultimately be served. In the aftermath of their rebellions, the fallen messengers lurk in the shadows of myth and time, but their power is not absolute. The Creator's plan endures, and the cosmos heals its wounds. Through the ages, it is said, Satan, that once Lucifer, prowls the earth like a raging beast, seeking souls to devour. Yet even in his apparent dominion as Prince of Darkness, a limit is set upon him. In Christian vision, a day will come when Michael again contends with the great dragon. In the Book of Revelation, the final war erupts. Michael's angelic host defeats Satan and his legions once and for all. The devil who deceived the nations is thrown into a lake of fire and brimstone, never to rise again. All his works, sin, death, and despair, are erased in that holy flame. Likewise, the Quran describes how at the last day, Iblis and his armies will be cast into hell, scorned by those he led astray. Having fulfilled his dark purpose as tempter, the arrogant spirit meets his ultimate doom, and the world is cleansed of his whispering forever. The Watchers, too, meet their judgment in the end. Locked in their subterranean prison since the flood, they await the great day of judgment. Then, as Enoch prophesied, those angels who sinned with women will be led forth to the fire to be destroyed or eternally confined in the abyss. Their giant sons are long dead, and when the final judgment comes, even the memory of those hybrid monstrosities will vanish. What once was a world oppressed by their violence will ultimately be purified of their shadow. In the end, God's law triumphs over the corruption the Watchers unleashed. Other cultures imagine cosmic reckonings as well. The Zoroastrians hold that at the end of this age, Ahura Mazda's light will utterly defeat Ahriman. The lie will be erased, and truth will renew creation. All souls will be purified, and creation made fresh and whole. Ahriman and his demons, the primordial rebels, will finally be banished into oblivion, unable to withstand the final victory of good. Order and purity will fill the world once more, as was intended from the beginning. In Greek myth, the vanquished Titans remain bound in Tartarus, living proof of the gods' justice. While in Egypt, Set stayed an outcast in the desert, never again to rule over the fertile lands. The cosmic balance was restored and maintained. So ends the saga of the fallen messengers of heaven. Once they were the brightest of the bright, morning stars, the trusted guardians of the divine order. But through pride, envy, and the hunger for forbidden power, they were cast down into darkness. They are known by many names: Lucifer, Satan, Iblis, the rebellious Watchers who birthed giants, the vanquished Titans and the defiant Prometheus, the dark spirit Ahriman, the jealous god Set, different faces of the same archetype, proud celestial beings who dared defy the highest law and paid for it with eternal shame. Yet in their tragic downfalls, these beings left a lasting gift to humanity, a cautionary tale. Their fates teach that hubris invites catastrophe, and that no creature, however exalted, can rebel against the divine will without dire consequence. Their stories, dramatic and haunting, have been preserved through the ages as warnings against the seduction of forbidden knowledge and the perils of defying heaven's command. In the end, the cosmos corrects itself. The proud are humbled, light triumphs over darkness. The fall of these once blazing messengers only makes the ultimate victory of righteousness more brilliant. No matter how long the night of chaos lasts, dawn comes at last. In the great tapestry of existence, the fallen messengers of heaven are the dark threads that make the triumph of light shine all the brighter.